So, welcome to today's video. We are taking a look at Manganeseblue, the genuine version versus a hue. And I've asked you in the last video if you would like to have a little bit a different style on these manganese pigments, because a lot of them are only available at from handmade artisans. So yeah, it is not so easy to get to one of those, and that's why I thought maybe we will do this a little bit different. What I realized while doing the voiceover is that the video has gotten extremely long, and I don't know if it is really that good in that version, because normally I would like to have put all the blue manganese pigments into this video, but I realized it would be far too long, so that's why I said we will only do a look at the PB33 version. And yeah, maybe let me know after the video if it is a little bit too long, and it is better to shorten it in the future, so that we can, for example, in the manganese brown section, don't make 3 videos for all 3 pigments and do all the browns in one video like I did prior. We could do swatches on a cotton and cellulose paper, but not on so many like we will do today. Yeah, let me know. That would be very kind of you. I have 4 different versions we will take a look today. The first version here is the Manganeseblue hue from Daniel Smith. And like always, when you read the word hue after the color name, it means that it is not the genuine pigment, but it is rather a lookalike version with maybe a pigment which is cheaper, which is often used in like student grade paints, where very expensive pigments are replaced by cheaper ones, or like in this case, when the original pigment isn't available anymore, or in other cases it is because the original pigment is not light fast, and that's why they replace it with another more light fast pigment. In this case, it is because the original Manganeseblue, the PB33, is being discontinued since 1990, so around 34 years out of production. And that is why big companies like Daniel Smith, which have used up all their stock, needs to replace it with another version. And Daniel Smith here uses PB15 phthalo blue, and I looked up a lot of brands and realized not many brands offer a Manganeseblue hue. Daniel Smith does, as well as Winsor Newton. They also use a PB15, and M. Graham offers one with a PB15 column 3 and PW4 mixture. So that is, like I said, a hue. Daniel Smith has on their side that this color is medium staining, transparent, and has wonderful granulation properties. It does granulate a little bit if you use enough water, and and if you're using a paper which works well with the color. I have used it in various paintings in the past, and on some papers you really can see a little bit of granulation. I think because phthalo blue is not a granulating pigment, that they may have put some granulation medium inside this paint. Kimberly Crick has also a very good video about this color because they use a fluorescent to get a little bit more colorful pop, more glowing blue effect here. And you can see this easily if there is a fluorescent in it. When you are using black light, then it starts to glow. Normally in colors, when you're using a fluorescent, we have this in Opera Rose, for example, the color gets unstable in their light fastness rating and has practically the worst light fastness ever. But in this case, this isn't the case. This color is still light fast. So that's definitely something special in this case here. I've read and heard from various artists which have used the original that this version of Daniel Smith is the one closest to the original. So the next we are swatching is the one from Da Vinci, Manganeseblue. They have a combination of the original PB33 and the PB15 phthalo blue. So this one is a mix. And what I realized when I've done all these swatches is that this color is far more darker than the other. Also, it doesn't glow as much as all the others. It's a little bit duller in the color than the other ones, and it does granulate, but it granulates very, very mildly, very, very fine granulation, which is on some papers rather hard to see at all. So that's the reason why I think the ratio of the PB33 is probably not very high, because when you are seeing now the next two swatches, how much the original pigment, a pure version of it, granulates, and to see the Da Vinci paint in comparison to it is, yeah, it seems like there isn't any granulation while the other ones granulates super strongly. It is a beautiful color, but especially on the cold pressed cotton paper, which we will do later in the video, it seems, to be honest, in its color, it looks much more like a cerulean blue. It doesn't look like the manganese blues. So beautiful color, but even if it has partly the original pigment in it, it does seem to be very different to the others, even the hues. I do because some of you asked if we could do swatches with salt and gauze. I've done on some of the swatches salt, and some will have the gauze, and some will have both. Normally, when you are putting salt in your colors, then you get a salt blooming reaction if the pigment does do this. Not every pigment works well with salt, but I don't know why. It doesn't matter which paper I use, which art, which kind of salt I use, fine, coarse, medium, whatever, and how much water I use, I just can't get any salt reactions. So please, if you are more experienced with salt than I am, let me know how I can improve my salt reactions here because, to be honest, I was super disappointed because I barely have any salt reactions on the paper, and the most I get is a super glossy salt residue on the paper afterwards. So that's rather nasty, to be honest. So the next two are both handmade from some artisans. They are from two different artisans making paints by hand. And I realized that the first version can get a lot darker than the second version. So there is a little bit of different in the color. Also, I would say the first version does granulate a little bit stronger than the second one. And I'm not quite sure why, because Manganeseblue was only produced in Germany. There aren't any other countries or companies anywhere else in the world which have produced the pigment. So it should come everything from the same source originally, even if some is labeled later under some of the watercolor companies, like, for example, Schmincke Akademie in Winsor Newton offers some colors the pigment in some jars. So the original source should be the same because it was one company producing this pigment. So I'm not quite sure why the color is a little bit different. Maybe some using more binder and some using more pigment, I don't know. But they're both super, super beautiful, absolutely stunning color, and I can definitely understand why so many artists are super sad that this pigment is not produced anymore. I have, of course, done a little bit of research like I always do. And I will tell you everything I found out. Manganeseblue, or also known as barium manganate, PB33, is a very light-fast, semi-opaque, lightly staining, heavily granulating, moderately dark-valued, moderately intense green blue pigment, also known as cement blue due to its use as a masonry colorant. The compound was first described in 1869, but not patented as a pigment until 1935. Isn't this color beautiful? You already can see how much it granulates, even if the swatch is still wet. I will show you a close-up of all the swatches in the end of the video, when they are completely dried. So yeah, it was definitely a lot later patented as a pigment. It was produced, like I said, in Germany until around 1990, when it became cost prohibitive due to environmental regulations because of the toxic byproducts and the production, which causes super high costs. And because of that, it was decided that it is being discontinued. It has a very small drying shift, so that means that the color is very similar while the paint is still wet to when it's completely dried. The crystalline synthetic inorganic pigment is a near perfect cyan blue, so that makes it perfect for a primary blue. That is also something I think is very sad that we don't have the pigment anymore, because not a lot of blue pigments to begin with, and not many which are like this one, a near perfect cyan blue. Blue pigments are probably the hardest category of pigments because there is not much real blue in nature. And for example, when you are looking at newer pigments and what number they have gotten. For example, Yintico red and Yinmin blue are very new pigments. And I wanted to show you the Winsor Newton manganese blue hue as well, because I have the dot card here, but I don't have the M-gram version or a dot card, because M-gram don't offer dot card so far as I know. At least I can't get definitely here what in Germany any dot cards of it, if there would be a dot card of the brand. So yeah, when you're looking at newer pigments, they of course get a number as well. And the Yinmin blue has a PB86, so it is under 100. And the Yintico red, which was invented a little bit after the Yinmin blue, it has the number PR259, I think. So it is nearly triple the amount of red pigments than we have blue pigments. So there aren't a lot of blue pigments to begin with. And of course, if blue pigments are being discontinued, that is worse than in other color groups where we have a lot more colors to choose from. And of course, colors like Manganeseblue, which are this near perfectly cyan blue, it is even harder or worse. And of course, pigments for us watercolorists, which are that much granulating, it is even worse, because that is something very special, and it is super sad that we don't have this pigment anymore. So the pigment has a very coarse texture even after extensive milling. That is also a reason why I think the amount of PB33 and the Da Vinci paint can't be that high, because when it is still super coarse even after super extensive milling, it still granulates super strongly, and probably that is or at least for my personal understanding, the amount can't be super high. If you have any information about that, about the Da Vinci version, I would super interested in hearing anything about it. Yeah, on handprint, that's a pigment database I very like. I like very much. Sorry. The author has written that the perfect the best replacement would be the PB17 from Holbein, the Peacock Blue. The problem is PB17 is now discontinued as well, so you can't replace it with this pigment. Even if that pigment isn't granulating, the PB17 is a phthalo pigment, but yeah, sadly it is discontinued as well. Where I found you can still get a PB17 is from Paul Rubens, the Mei Liang watercolor set. Some of them have a PB17. The tube set. I have a set. I have the tube set. I haven't done a review video so far. I will as soon as possible, because there is one tube which contains PB17, but in combination with a white pigment. So I'm not sure, because I haven't tested it yet, how good that is. But it is the only PB17 I know which you can still easily get. If you have more brands where you still can buy without problem a PB17, I would love to know. So this paper here is also a cellulose paper, but with a more texture surface. And that's also while I've done here only two versions, the hue versus the genuine one, just to show you how it looks on a more structured cellulose paper. We will do in the second row the gauze test for the cellulose papers. And I realized when these swatches were completely dried, that definitely the normal gauze I have is not good to work with, to get those nice gauze structure on the paper, because it is too tightly woven. I know from Ottokano, she has a very lovely gauze, which has big holes, and it makes a lovely texture. But to be honest, I don't know where to get something like that here in Germany. That's my problem. I only have access to standard medical gauze stuff, and they are all like that. I've used here, but as you will see afterwards, when the swatches are dried, that it is definitely too tight to get a nice structure. So if you have worked with gauze yourself, like my very bad salt situation, I would be super thankful for any tips you can give me. I'm always interested in learning more, and yeah, I've definitely not worked with gauze or salt a lot in my own art. So the production of manganese blue is made by calcining sodium sulfate with potassium permanganate and barium nitrate at 750 to 800 Celsius, not Fahrenheit. The PB17 I've written down here is also considered by artists as a near perfect blue, but like I said, it is being discontinued, so it is probably even harder to get than the PB33, just because the PB33 in watercolor was super widely loved, and I don't know how much that is the case with the PB17, to be honest. What is definitely to be aware of is that manganese blue as a manganese pigment is also a toxic pigment, because manganese, like cadmiums and cobalts, are toxic pigments. And manganese blue can cause diarrhea and a progressive nervous disorder, which is similar to morbus Parkinson. And it is also shown to cause reproductive toxicity in animals when the exposure is inadequate. I'm working permanently with cobalts and cadmiums and manganese pigments, and if you are handling your colors with care, then it isn't a problem. I personally work normally very carefully, so I practically never get any paints on my hands. And of course, you should not eat or drink any part of the color, and should also not eat or drink while painting. And clean your hands thoroughly afterwards. And yeah, definitely, if you have kids or pets, then you should put your colors somewhere where neither can get to it. Because of course, kids and pets mostly are smaller, have less weight, and therefore even smaller amounts can be problematic. I think, like I said, if you are handling it with care, it shouldn't be any problem because you're painting. You are not eating the stuff. So, and when you don't splash yourself permanently, excessively, then it shouldn't be any problem. But it is something you should definitely be aware of. And I know that some people don't work with toxic pigments at all. This is completely fine. I've seen a video from someone which really said how much paint you would need to really get a toxicity problem, but and that the amount of paint, especially in watercolor, is mostly super low because we are diluting it with water anyway. But like I said, it is definitely something you should be aware of. And I know that some people, for example, collecting their washing water, letting it rest for one day, and pouring the water amount away, and collecting the pigments, and then put it in a jar and giving it to a special place where toxic waste is handled as better than in the normal waste bin. Or if you are pouring it constantly down the drain, where it can pollute the groundwaters, depending on where you live and how good your country is handling wastewater. That is definitely something you can do if you want to be more careful with our environment. I do this myself, and from that reason, I can definitely say don't wait until the water completely is gone by itself. I've tried it. And let me say, the gum arabic starts to ferment at some part because you have a lot of water. It needs a lot of time that it evaporates completely from itself. And when it starts fermenting, it stinks horribly. My husband came into my drawing room one day and said, it stinks like someone has vomited in the room. And it was when I first started collecting my washing water. And we really needed a while to realize that this was the problem. So I let it sit normally for 1 or 2 days and put the water out and carefully so that the pigments stay on the bottom of the jar. So that is definitely something I can give as a tip. Don't do the same mistake because it needs a lot of time to get all the stink out of the room. It was really nasty. So this paper here is a 100% cotton hot pressed paper. It is a very smooth paper, and it is from the company Bauhong. The reason why I have to glue it down is because it is from a roll, so that is the reason why it is warped even after I tried to flatten it with weight for 2 days. So I thought I have to glue it down because if you would use it like that, we would get all the paint to one of the edges and we will not have any nice swatches at all. So yeah. What surprised me a lot was when I've opened the package from the roll, because until this video it was completely unused so far, and when I opened it I found two gloves in it made from I think cotton, which you can use to cut your roll into pieces without getting any fat from your skin on the paper, which will cause rather nasty white spots. That is the reason why I only always wear my digital drawing glove, because I have super dry skin because of psoriasis, and I have to use a lot of creams for my hands, and I had a lot of problems because of that with the paper in the past. That is when I started using this cloth. And so for me personally, this was a very positive surprise. And to be honest, even I use the drawing cloth all the time, but I never would have come to that idea to use complete gloves to handle my paper while I'm cutting it. So that is definitely something I will change in the future and use this pair of gloves with other paper brands as well. For example, my sheets from Arches. I know that in all the English videos I am looking, it always is pronounced Arches, but it is a French company, and the right pronunciation I've looked it up is Arches, which is for me as a German very funny, because the same pronunciation means S in German. So yeah, doesn't sound very nice in German that way, but it is the right pronunciation. So it is what it is. The pigment PB33 was first produced in 1907, and since around 1930 it was produced from the German company IG Farben, which is translated IG Colors. That is a company in Uerdingen, that is a city in Western Germany near Düsseldorf. And sadly, the pigment was only available for us artists for around 60 years. Like I said, around 1990, it was being discontinued. And that is something I think is still super fascinating for me, that even after 34 years, we still have pigment of this left, so that handmade artisans can still make a PB33 watercolor for us. That is really, really cool. I mean, how long it is out of production and we still have some pigment left. But of course, because it is already that long, I think in the next years, the worldwide stock will probably be gone somewhere in the next years. So if you are super interested in a PB33, I can highly recommend to not wait super long, to get yourself a pen of it, because nobody knows how long we will still have access to it. I mean, all the big companies stopped production of Manganeseblue or watercolor years ago, and they didn't found enough pigment somewhere to say to produce it nowadays. So I think the stock probably is very, very low, and it just is enough for some handmade artisans to make the color in small batches, as long as the stock they have or they have access to lasts. So it will vanish definitely over time. So after the hot pressed cotton paper, we will do also a swatch on cold pressed cotton paper from Ash. That is the graphene one. They also offer a rough. I've never used it, to be honest. I have a roll of rough from Bao Hong, but when I unrolled it and compared it with the Ash paper, I must say it is super similar. The graphene and the rough from Bao Hong, as far as I can see it. So that's why I thought I don't include it, because it is, like I said, very similar to each other. From my personal experience, the graphene cold pressed from Arch is definitely rougher than other papers I've used, but I personally love it very, very much. This super, super awesome paper. I also love their hot pressed very much. I have a lot of papers collected over the years until I found the ones I think are best suited for me personally. Of course, it is always if you give 10 different artists the same papers, some will love it, some will hate it, some will say it's okay, but won't be my favorite. So yeah, opinions differ. I think it is always how you are working and what you're drawing, and yeah, it's just a thing of personal preference, what you like more or less. But I definitely love the paper from Arch, and it is very easily accessible here in Germany, because it is produced in France, so that is our neighboring country. That is easy to get. And some other brands, like I know a lot of people, for example, I've seen who are from the US using the Etcher sketchbook, the cotton sketchbook, and that is, for example, super hard to get in Germany. There are not a lot of shops which are offering it, so it is always wise to look in your location what is more easily accessible, because I think there are always a lot of companies making good products. If it's paints, brushes, or paper, it doesn't matter. must say that when I look at the dried swatch from this paper, that interestingly, the granulation of the genuine version is worse here. It doesn't show the granulation as beautiful as it does on the Canson XL paper, which is very surprising for me. But I personally don't like the Canson XL for drawing. I use it a lot for swatching on swatch cards and stuff like that, but I find layering on it very, very hard. Ah, this was the one where I totally messed up the gauze. It folded over, and then it was super, super hard to get it right again. Still, some parts of it are folded over in the upper area. Just didn't get it completely normal again. So now that we have done the swatches here, like I said, we will do a last set of swatches on the cold pressed graphene paper from Ash. And I always collect all my parts when I'm cutting a big sheet into smaller pieces. Then you always have some leftovers. And these two, for examples, are leftovers, not big enough for example, for an Accio card, because it is a little bit too small. But yeah, we can still use it for something like doing swatches. And the funny letters you are seeing here is from the watermark. When you are having big sheets of watercolor paper, or sometimes also on watercolor rolls, you will have the name of the company as a watermark, which I think for swatches like this is okay on a painting. I wouldn't like to see some random letters on the painting, but for this here, it's not so dramatically. I also collect smaller parts because I'm using small leftovers paper from, if it's cotton or cellulose, doesn't matter. When I'm drawing and I'm mixing my color, then I always do a test on one of those small leftovers so that I can see if the color is like I want it to be, or if I have to mix some more of one color, or if it's too light, or what else. So yeah, that way you would definitely get the most out of your paper. And especially, I think, with cotton paper, which is rather expensive. It is for me personally important to really get the most out of my paper. And I personally feel better when I'm using smaller stripes or very small parts and don't have to throw it away. unused. Yeah, and super, super surprised about the Da Vinci version, which we will be swatching now. I have on all the swatches, I have always the same paints on the same space. So we're always starting with Daniel Smith, the Da Vinci, and then the two handmade brands, and the two handmade brands are always in the same order as well, so that we can compare it more easily. And especially here on this paper, the color is so much different from the color shade that if I would know this is the manganese blue, if I just would look up the color without any information, I would say that this is a cerulean blue, because the color is so much more like a cerulean blue when it's dried. Completely different in its shade to the all of the others. If you're having the Da Vinci paint, I would love to know if this is the normal for this paint, or if I just have a batch where it differs from the standard version. But yeah, it definitely is not similar to the others in its shade. Doesn't mean it is a bad or not paint, or that it isn't beautiful. It is just very different, and yeah, like I said, it is a little bit duller. It doesn't glow as much as the other ones, so I would probably use it differently than the original version. I love, for example, the Mother Violet from Da Vinci, where this is mixed with, I think, a Quin Rose or a Quin Pink. I'm not quite sure. It is a very, very beautiful purple. So probably when my pan of Mother Violet is empty, I would probably more use this paint as a mixing blue than the single pigment genuine versions, that I would stick more to using them on its own, because I don't have a lot, so I have to be careful when I'm using it. And I don't think I will order from Da Vinci again, not because I don't like their colors, but it is just so terrible expensive to get this paints here in Germany. We don't have any seller here in Germany selling it, so I have had to order it directly from Da Vinci, and I've ordered one one set, and I ordered the dot card version they have, and it I know the colors on its own are, when you are buying them in the US, or more on the cheaper side, but if you are putting uh, a lot of shipping costs to it and customs, then it gets really, really expensive here. So sadly, it is just not financial for me to order anything from Da Vinci again while I'm here in Germany. When I have the chance to get to the US again, then I will maybe take a look at the local art store or order it to the hotel or something like that. But yeah, to get it here in Germany, it is just too expensive, sadly, because they have some really, really lovely paints, and I would absolutely love to get more of their paints and try more of them. But like I said, it is just super expensive here. And especially now in my situation, I have to definitely look more how I spend my money, because um, I'm now a pensioner with in my late 30s because of the chronic illness situation I have. So yeah, I have to look where I spend my money. And then it is just more, yeah, or how do I say it? It is just wiser to buy paints which are more easily accessible here in Germany, where I don't have any customs to pay, and where I don't have a lot of shipping costs. Because when I'm buying paints at local shops or German online stores, then I don't have to pay normal in most of them. You don't have to pay any transportation costs when you are ordering for enough money. So I rather wait until I have enough to get to that price, and then ordering less times per year is just more cost efficient for me. So that will be our last swatch, and then I will show you all the swatches in a close-up, so that you can hopefully see everything much better. So now let's move to the dried swatches. This is the Canson XL cellulose paper with very smooth texture. And you can see now how big the difference is between the granulation of the Da Vinci paint and the original version. And you also can see how how worse, how much the salt reaction doesn't work at all. So please give me some tips for that, because that's why I never use salt. I've tried so many different ways and still don't get a good reaction. This is the Ohuhu cellulose paper with a little bit more texture. We have the Daniel Smith version on the left, and the right has the genuine PB33. This is the 100% cotton hot pressed paper from Bao Hong. Also the Daniel Smith version against the genuine version. And then we have the Arch paper. I think the gauze here with the Daniel Smith is the best, and the Da Vinci here is the best with the salt. I have at least a little bit of salt plumes here. Then we have the pure swatches on the same paper, cold pressed graphene from Arch. And you can see how much different the Da Vinci paint is here in the color when you are having the genuine pure version on the next side. It is very big difference, I think. Yeah, so I hope that the video was interesting and helpful for you. I would really love to hear if we should do the videos more like this, that we only take a look at one pigment, or a little bit more like the past videos where we don't have so many different swatches and maybe just do our swatches on a cellulose paper and a cotton paper, so that we only do two swatches per color, which would be definitely a little bit shorter in time than this here. Also, I would absolutely love to hear, do you have a genuine PB33 and how do you like it? Or do you not have a PB33 and maybe want to try some? Or if you say, I'm not sad that it is being discontinued, I don't like the color, or I'm just not very interested in it, or I don't like granulation, so it isn't a pigment for me, just let me know in the comments below. And yeah, thank you so much if you watched this super long video till the end. If you leave a thumbs up or a follow, that is very much appreciated, because it helps the channel and me a lot. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you soon. Bye bye, and take good care of yourself.